Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the June Ordinary Council meeting. It being 2 minutes past 6, I'll declare this meeting open. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the town, the Wajak Noongar people, as we gather and conduct this meeting and pay our respects to their elders, both past and present. I don't have any announcements tonight. Attendances, apologies, and applications for leave of absence. So we have an apology from our CEO, Mr. Woods, who is on leave, and I would ask if there's any other apologies. I don't believe there are. So, councillors, we now come to applications for leave of absence. Do I have any applications, Councillor Plifka?
Yes, thank you. From the 3rd to the 31st of July.
Okay. Any other councillors wishing to have a leave of absence? I'll no, actually it's the following month. Okay, councillors, do I have a mover for that leave? Councillor Wilding seconded. Councillor Ames. Anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Councillors, item 4, do we have any declarations of interest on any item on the agenda? No? Okay, so we'll move on. I do not believe there are any deputations. No statements have been provided by members of the public, and there was, I apologise, there was one email that was received by all councillors from Kelly O'Brien in respect to the time that the town closes over Christmas and New Year's. That has been, it's a fairly lengthy statement that has been published in its entirety in our agenda. The town's response is that the report is guided by the festive season closure policy that states, as a family-friendly council, the administration office will be closed during the festive season, Christmas to New Year, and the Chief Executive Officer is required to advise staff of the dates of the office closure by the 1st of July in advance to enable staff to book their holidays and also to roster staff for the emergency services and the minimal staff that will work over that period of time. So, questions from members of the public. I don't believe that we have had any sent in by email. There are no petitions. So, councillors, this brings us to item 9, which is confirmation of the minutes. Now, earlier in the day, I indicated that 9.1.3, I would remove that. However, having had discussions with our relieving CEO, Mr. White, we are proceeding with these 3 minutes. So the ordinary council meeting held on the 28th of May, the special council meeting held on the 11th of June, and the special council meeting held on the 18th of June. We're going to move those together unless anyone has an objection to that. So, councillors, can I have a mover for receiving the minutes of those 3 meetings? Councillor John, seconded Councillor Carter. Anyone against? I'll declare that carried. There is no business deferred from the previous meeting. There are nil external committee reports and updates. So this brings us to the officer reports, which is item 12. Now, councillors, does anyone wish to withdraw any of the items that are listed en bloc? Councillor Ames.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to confirm, sometimes there are a bit of confusion in regards to what the reports are en bloc and what aren't. So if you might be able to just read out the items that are en bloc so we can all just give the thumbs up.
So in on block at the moment we have 12.2 end of year closure, 12.3 Bassendean Local Emergency Management Committee meeting, 12.4 draft amended local planning policy number 13, which is tree retention and provision, 12.6, which is the RFT for Bassendean Town Centre Precinct Structure Plan, 12.7 accounts paid, 12.8 monthly financial report. Councillors, I did ask a couple of questions earlier today regarding 12.6, which is the RFT for Bassendean Town Centre Precinct Structure Plan. I'm not entirely sure whether I've had my questions answered, but if you would like the officer to provide some additional information, it has a confidential attachment. I would have to take that into confidential business if there's anyone who'd like to withdraw that one. No? Okay. Welcome. We have some community members who have joined us in the chamber, so we welcome you. So, councillors, we have 12.2, 12.3, 12.4, 12.6, 12.7 and 12.8. I would like a mover for those on block. Councillor Ames, seconder. Councillor Blifka. Is there anyone against? I'll declare those carried. So this brings us to 12.5, the Audit and Governance Committee meeting that was held on the 12th of June. I'll just ask Mr. White if he would like to speak to this before I open it to questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing to add to last week's briefing session, but thank you.
Okay. Councillors, are there any questions on this item? Okay, so I will ask for a mover for this item. Councillor Wilding, a seconder. Councillor Burke, do we have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. This brings us to 12.9, the adoption of the 2024-25 annual budget. Now, Mr. White would like to provide a little bit of information prior to questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I thought just given this item has come straight to the council meeting rather than via the briefing session last week, I'd provide a sort of an introduction that I would normally have provided at the briefing session. So obviously the purpose of the report is to present the 2024-25 annual budget to council for adoption. The proposed budget arises from considerable effort really from across the town and all of the business and service areas in rationalising their expenditure and forecasting their activities for the next year. It's been prepared with strong oversight from the executive throughout, and I think also really importantly with close cooperation with councillors, with a number of lengthy workshops that we've all participated in. So I thank councillors very much for the substantial time and effort that you've all put in terms of developing and formulating this year's budget. So the proposed budget, it's consistent with council's strategic budget policy. It's a fiscally responsible budget and it's cognisant of the need to plan for both the current and the future needs of the community. It provides funding for the town's operations to continue to provide important quality services to the community, while also allocating funding for some key long-term planning initiatives and important capital projects. There's 6 attachments to the report, including obviously the statutory budget and the fees and charges and the operational and capital projects. There's 2 versions of the project documents. One is just a project listing for each of them, and the other one is the full schedule with the proposed budgets included. There have been no changes to any of those documents since the last workshop with councillors on the 11th of June. But however, I'm proposing 2 minor changes tonight. The first one is in relation to fees and charges. The Mayor brought to my attention before the meeting a matter that was discussed at workshops but hadn't been reflected in the fees and charges, and that is on page 223 of the agenda. And it concerns large hall and small room hire. There is a 50% discount for community groups, not-for-profits, clubs and associations, and currently I'd be proposing to delete the words "and local residents" from the hall hire, both large and small. Further consistent with discussions during the relevant workshop. So that would remove local residents from the 50% discount. Cognizant that many local residents who are seeking to hire small and large halls would fall into one of those other categories anyway.
Can I add that there is a 70% discount for senior groups as well?
Yes, quite correct, thank you. And the second one is just a typo. We, in recommendation 5A of the officer report, we refer to something called an urban island heat effect, and it should of course be the urban heat island effect. So we'll just be looking to swap those two words around in the recommendation. And I guess importantly and lastly, just wanted to touch on the differential rating. So obviously the budget is formulated based on the differential rates that were advertised on the 23rd of May. The town received one submission in response, which has been reproduced in full within the officer report. It's on page 46 of the agenda, along with officer comments in response to that submission. Council is required to consider the submission before imposing the proposed differential rates, and it may impose the proposed differential rates and minimum payment as advertised or with modification. So it's recommended that Council adopts the 2024-25 annual budget as detailed in the report and attachments. And should Council do so, it's expected that the rates notices will issue on the 24th of July, with the first payment being due 28th of August. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, just before we start, I will advise the two members of the public that we had already gone through question time, statement time before you arrived. So now we're into the body of the reports. And so this part of the report deals with the budget. So councillors, do I have any questions from councillors regarding the budget document? Thank you, Councillor John.
Hi, Madam Mayor, to the CEO, Acting CEO. What pay increase for staff does the budget account for?
Your microphone.
I'd prefer to answer that behind closed doors, Councillor John. That's not a matter that's been made public to general staff at the town at this point, and we're currently in negotiations for both new enterprise agreements.
Is that something we can revisit later in the meeting then? We go to
Not
behind
unless,
closed doors?
well, we would, to answer that question, we would have to go behind closed doors now. So would you like us to go behind closed doors, Councillor? We can.
I'm happy to have it answered later, if that's more convenient.
Would that be?
I'd be more than happy to provide that information to you after the meeting, Councillor John. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor John, I'm not sure, there was actually some dialogue around that at one of the workshops, but I cannot recall whether that was a workshop where you were in attendance or not. So, but I will allow Mr. White to deal with this question.
From memory, I do remember it being talked about, but I don't think it had been locked in at that point.
Sure.
Okay. Councillors, are there any other questions in respect to the document? So, Mr. White, that minor amendment that I brought to your attention, you will automatically organise for that to occur, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm just looking at my list of questions, and I think they've all been satisfactorily dealt with. Councillors, no further questions? Otherwise, I'm going to move through the sections of the budget. Now, councillors, I am going to take it a little bit slow so that I think there's 6 different sections to the budget. So if we move to page 57 of the agenda, we've got section 1, which is the 2024-25 annual budget. And that's the officer's recommendation for section 1. If you like, I can read that out. If I read out every section, it's going to be quite a long night, but I will read out this first one. Adopts pursuant to the provisions of Section 6.2 of the Local Government Act 1995 and Part 3 of the Local Government Financial Management Regulations 1996, the budget for the town of Bassendean for the 2024-25 financial year as contained in Attachment 1, which includes the following. A. Statement of comprehensive income showing a net surplus for the year of $1,110,959. B. Statement of cash flows showing cash at the end of the year of $13,581,296. I think this next one should be C. So that's a minor typo.
Yes.
Okay, so all of those numbers from this forward will need to be changed. So C, statement of financial activity showing the amount required to be raised from rates of $16,305,035. D, which is E on your papers, notes to and forming part of the budget. E, transfers to reserve accounts totalling $1,185,122 and from reserve accounts totalling $1,665,403. F, operational projects $787,571 as detailed in attachment 4. And G, capital expenditure and new initiatives $7,438,980 inclusive of carried forward projects of $1,433,277 as detailed in attachment 6. So the voting requirement for this is an absolute majority. Do I have a mover for section 1? Councillor Ames. A seconder? Councillor Plifka. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Section 2 relates to rates, instalment payment arrangements, administration fees and interest. So, councillors, I don't propose to read that out because that's a very long section, but basically it deals with the differential ratings that will be applicable for the 24-25 year with improved residential at 8.1758, improved commercial and industrial GRV at 9.4021, vacant land, residential, commercial and industrial GRV at 12.2636. The minimum payment for all categories is $1,183. There's also some dot points regarding the underground power charges for the Eden Hill project. We have the payment options for rates where the first instalment is due from the 28th of August 2024. We have grants concessions against rates in respect to a property selected at random, which will be for those who register for E-rates. They also have the Hanwell Way property that's requested a 50% waiver of their rates fees for Westcare Incorporated, which is a registered not-for-profit and charity, is it not?
Yes, it is, Madam Mayor.
Right. So, councillors, that summarises what section 2 is about. Any questions before I actually get a mover and a seconder on this one? Okay, can I have a mover for this item? Councillor Ames, seconder? I'll second that. Do we have anyone against? Councillor Plifka, do you wish to debate?
Probably just to clarify the part which I have an issue
Okay,
with.
so I'll ask the mover first. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to everyone in the room, and also those that are viewing online. As mentioned by the Acting CEO and our Head CFO, There's been a number of workshops, there's been a number of discussions, there's been a number of hours punched into this particular aspect of our 2024-25 budget. It would be remiss of us to be able to go against the great work that's been done and everything that we've been agreeing upon in our workshops to get to this point. So I'd like nothing but to congratulate our team of financial experts, including the people around this table, to press the green lights and move forward with actioning our 24-25 budget. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ames. As a seconder, I'll keep it short and sweet. I believe that this has been a very thorough budget process. I am very, very pleased with the manner in which the administration has listened to councillors. There have been changes through the process. We started the budget process in late February, beginning of March. There have been significant changes and development of the budget as we've gone through the process. I think at this point in time to make any significant changes would be difficult, and it would out of necessity affect the bottom line. We have significant projects that are earmarked for this year, and consequently I think this is a fiscally responsible budget. Councillor Plifka, you would like to argue against?
I would like to be in furious agreement with everything that both the mover and the seconder have said as regards points 2B through to I. The only part that I have an issue with, which wouldn't affect the bottom line, it just determines who pays what in terms of the rates, is part A, so that's to do with the differential rates. I see there that we have said that the purpose was to deal with a deficiency in the budget. I think previously we'd said that that was to stimulate economic development of vacant properties. So I suppose my issue with that is that I just don't think that works. Look, I understand a lot of local governments do it. It's in vogue in the industry. Everyone's levying differential rates, and we're in the majority of councils in that regard. I just don't believe that levying differential rates on vacant properties achieves the outcome that we're seeking. Although here we've noted that the outcome that we were seeking was to deal with a deficiency. But that said, the rest of it is excellent, and thank the staff for the detailed process that we've gone through this year. But yes, just that point 2A that doesn't allow me to vote in favour of it.
Thank you, Councillor Plifka. I note that this is a stance that you have held for some considerable time. I think the debate last year was fairly similar, so I do take on board your position. If you would permit it, the acting CEO would like to comment.
No issues with that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to clarify one thing, Councillor Plifka. And the first part of 2A, the phrase "for the purpose of yielding the deficiency disclosed in the budget," that's just a repeat of the terminology in the Act. So the Act states that you need to work out what all of your income and expenses are aside from rates, and then set the level of rates to make up whatever the deficiency is. The statement of objects and reasons in relation to improved commercial talks about compensating the town for higher costs associated with supporting that land use and for vacant land to encourage development, as you mentioned before. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity to clarify that.
So, councillors will continue with debate. Are there any other councillors who wish to debate for, against? Councillor Ames, would you like to close? No? Okay, so I'll put it direct to the vote. All those in favour? So that is Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Wilding, Councillor Burke, Councillor John, Councillor Ames, Councillor Carter for, and Councillor Plifka against. Thank you, councillors. Sorry. Councillors, we'll now move to section 3 of the budget document, which is the fees and charges. Obviously, the acting CEO, Mr. White, has flagged a minor change that I actually raised this afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Acting CEO, for taking those comments on board late this afternoon. It was very late, and I do apologise. So with that minor amendment that is flagged by the acting CEO, I would like to know if there are any questions on this item before I actually put it to the vote, or ask for a mover and a seconder, sorry. Okay, can I have a mover for the fees and charges? Councillor Ames, seconded Councillor Wilding. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. We now move to section 4, which is the councillor fees and allowances. I will read this out for the benefit of the public, that 4A, pursuant to section 5.99A of the Local Government Act 1995 and Regulation 30 of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, adopts the following annual fees for payment of councillors in lieu of individual meeting attendance fees. 1, the Mayor, 27,425, councillors, 17,711. B, pursuant to section 599A of the Local Government Act 1995 and Regulations 31 of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, adopts the Information and Communications Technology Allowance of 2,800 for councillors. C, pursuant to section 5985 of the Local Government Act 1995, adopts the annual local government allowance of $39,988 to be paid to the Mayor in addition to the annual meeting allowance, and D, pursuant to section 5.98A(1) of the Local Government Act 1995, adopts the annual local government allowance of $9,997 to be paid to the Deputy Mayor in addition to the annual meeting allowance. Councillors, do I have a mover for that item? Councillor Carter. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Burke. Anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Councillors, this brings us to section 5, reserves, change in purpose, change in use of funds. Again, I'll just read this out quickly. Pursuant to section 611 of the Local Government Act 1995, A, change the purpose of Urban Greening Reserve, formerly Street Tree Reserve, to fund projects that improve urban canopy and greening to reduce the urban heat island effect. And B, change the purpose of the Natural Area Reserve to provide for the future restoration of natural areas, including foreshore stabilisation. Councillors, mover, Councillor Plifka, seconded Councillor Wilding. Do I have anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Lastly, this brings us to section 6, materiality. Adopts a material variance of $15,000 or 10% of the appropriate base, whichever is the higher, for the 24-25 financial activity statement for the purpose of reporting under Regulation 34.5 or 34(5) of the Local Government Financial Management Regulations 1996 and AASB 1031 materiality. Councillors, mover, Councillor John. Seconder, Councillor Wilding. Anyone against? I'll declare that carried. And councillors, I believe that might well be the fastest approval of a budget that I have experienced since I've been on council. So congratulations. So I'd like to express my appreciation to Mr. White and the staff for all their assistance during this budget process. It has indeed been, and also our CEO, Mr. Cameron Woods, who is not with us tonight. This has indeed been a very smooth budget process, and I look forward to the coming years and all the incredible projects that will be delivered for our community. So, councillors, the next item on the agenda is 12.10, which is the CEO performance review for 23-24. Now, I propose to take this item behind closed doors, if only because all the attachments to this are confidential. So, councillors, can I have a mover to go behind Councillor Ames, a second to go behind closed doors? Councillor John. Anyone against? I'll declare that carried. Could we have someone close the door?
there's going to be discussion about the attachment, then the staff can leave as well.
Okay, councillors, for the sake of transparency, I am required to read the resolution of council out now. So we are recording, we're back on.
Yes, we are, Mayor.
Okay. The resolution of council for item 12.10, that council 1 endorse the CEO performance review assessment for the 23-24 period as per confidential attachment 1, 2 endorse the 24-25 CEO KPIs as contained in this report. Point 3, endorse the 24-25 total reward package as per confidential attachment 2, backdated to April 4th, 2024, which reflects payment of 100% of the band as determined by the Salaries and Allowances Tribunal. And 4, endorse attendance of the CEO at the LGCOG Forum in Kiama, New South Wales in July 2024, and authorise expenditure of up to $1,500 for the airfares and accommodation. Councillors, that is that item. Now, there are no motions of which previous notice has been given. I don't believe anyone here has an announcement of a notice of motion for the next meeting. There's nil urgent business. Confidential business has already been dealt with, and I should have actually dealt with those other 3 before confidential business, but move on. And that brings us to the closure of the meeting at 6:43 p.m. and the next ordinary council meeting will be held on Tuesday the 30th of July 2024, commencing at 6 p.m. I'll declare this meeting closed. Thank you. Let's wait for the